So I know a lot of you guys are sitting there thinking, what actually is RPE? Which is probably why you actually clicked on this video. But some of you might also be thinking, how do you understand RPE? Now, when it comes to RPE, I understand your struggles with trying to understand what it is and how to use it. Because I was also once a beginner coming into powerlifting. I hadn't really used a structured program in the past, and I definitely hadn't used RPE. So when I loaded up my first program, saw RPE5, I had no clue what I was supposed to do. So I had to put my own research into it to understand what RPE is and how it works. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you the 4 best tips that I used for my own programming and my clients' programming to help myself and my clients fully understand how to use RPE. Before we get into how to understand how to use and apply RPE, we first need to actually know what it means. So there's 2 ways of thinking about RPE. You have the first way, which is just thinking about how hard a set was out of 10. So you have RPE5 if it was a 5 out of 10, RPE6 if it was a 6 out of 10, and so on and so forth. But you have another way of thinking about it, which is the way that I personally use and get my clients to use, is thinking about it, how many reps you'd have left in the tank. So it's linking RPE and RIR, which is reps in reserve. So you'd think about it like this. If a set was RPE10, you would have 0 reps left in the tank. If it was RPE9, you would have 1. And if it was RPE8, you would have 2, and so on and so forth. Now I prefer this way just because it's easier to understand and quantify how hard that set actually was. So now that we understand what RPE is, we need to understand how to use RPE, but also rate RPE. So getting straight into it now, we have the first tip, which is going to be use AMRAPs in your training. Now, the reason why I say use AMRAPs in your training is if you've never gone to RPE10 or failure before on the squat, bench, or deadlift, how are you supposed to know what RPE6 is if you don't know what RPE10 is? But you want to be careful with the way you do this. You do not want to do RPE10 on a single straightaway or even like a triple or a set of 4. You want to do it with a moderate weight that you could probably do something around like 6 to 10 reps with. And when you do this, make sure you have spotters. So if this is a squat, I'd recommend at least 2 side spotters along with the safeties. If you're doing bench press, at least 1 back spotter and also safeties as well if you have them. And then deadlift, you won't need a spotter. You could maybe have a back spot if you feel more comfortable with that, but that's how I'd recommend for you to do this. And I would also do this at the end of a block as well. So moving on to the second point now, we have recording your videos and either watching it yourself or getting a friend or a coach to review this. Now this is good because you can watch your set back, see how it moves, and then use that to help you rate what RPE the set was. But this has its limitations as you don't really fully understand RPE, but this can just be a helpful tool if you have no one else that can help you. Now, sending this to either a friend or a coach, this can be quite good because you get an outside view of what someone else thinks the RPE, and there's no bias or anything towards it that could change your decision. I'd recommend that this friend at least does powerlifting or understands what RPE works, but the best option is getting a coach and having the coach watch that for you because they have that experience of seeing multiple lifters set, rating RPEs over multiple years for however long they've done it, and also in their own training as well. So that's the best way to get outsider feedback to help you to understand RPE more. Now going on to the third one, we have using static warm-ups in your programming. So an example of a static warm-up is if you have 1 set of 1 as your last warm-up with 180 kilos, and then you go into your top set of 3. But across that whole block, you keep that 180 kilos consistent. So let's say you do 180 kilos for your last warm-up, it moves it around RPE4, then you know for your top set for that triple, you're probably going to be something in the range of 190 to 195 kilos. So let's say you do the 195 kilos at RP5. Now, you go on to your next week of training, you keep that 180 kilos, but your RP's gone up to RP6 on that triple. You do that 180 kilos, and based off that 180 kilos, you can see whether you're feeling stronger or weaker on the day. So let's say you do 180 kilos at RP5. So now maybe you might be looking at 195 to 200 kilos. So you might have to repeat the weight because you're not feeling as strong. Now, this isn't the best way to understand how to rate RP, and that's why it's stirred down, but it can be very helpful with load selections and understanding what load you should use for that certain RPE. So that's why it's third. I'd recommend doing the AMRAPs first and recording your sets, and then using this after you have an understanding of RPE so you can help choose your load selections better. Now going on to the final one, this links in with the third one. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. It will be personal preference at the end of the day, but it's using ascending sets. Now this is the same sort of idea as the last one. So let's say, for example, we have ascending sets. You have your first set, which is going to be 160 kilos at RP4. You do that set, then you can use that to choose your next set based on how it moves. So let's say it does move at RP4, then you can say, okay, I'm doing the same reps again. Maybe I'll do 165 kilos now for that second set, as it's supposed to be RP5, and then 170 and so on. So you can use those prior sets and use how those moved to help decide with your next set. So it's the same sort of idea. Use the first two tips to help understand how to use RP, and then either use a warm-up set, a set warm-up set across a block, or ascending sets to help you better choose loads and understand what weight would be a certain RPE. Or you could do both together. You can add in a sort of static warm-up protocol alongside ascending sets if you wanted to do that. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, and if you did, drop a comment down below and let me know which protocol you used and if it helped you or not. I'll see you guys in the next video.